see there's contradictions when eternity or forever's used. So even in the English, I knew that there was something missing. Um, that's kind of easy to demonstrate, but it seems Augustine, when he started to make, during that time period when the church would get together and they made a lot of the early church fathers, hundreds of years before, anathema. I'm not even sure what the word means, anathema, but the contention was that they were for eternal torment and against annihilation and universal reconciliation. And I
P10, have I
feel
seen
like
you on other streams? I feel like I've seen you on other streams.
maybe, I don't know. Yeah. And so I'm just looking for someone who has knowledge on the topic, who has done the study and has come to a different conclusion. It would save me a lot of time. And
I think doesn't the church have a position on this already? Like
we've basically adopted Augustine's position as our own.
There you go.
So,
there's your answer.
So you can. Some people, that's enough for them, and maybe it's enough for me. But if we're going to give, good pastoral concern to people, we got to maybe give them a little bit more than just that there.
Well, but I
guess I don't have the
other people's thinking on the topic, which is what he asked for.
Yeah, that's the way we could look at it. I don't think I've got the current equipment to maybe debate this on the level that you're looking for right now. So my bishop's got me studying canon law, which is maybe not entirely dissimilar to hell, but
well, when you do it in Washington D.C. in the summer,
it's certainly some isomorphism there. Yeah,
could be the same.
Is this a question on the eternity of hell? Is that what the question is about?
It's specifically how that doctrine is derived from Scripture, based on a close study of the New Testament Greek. If you read something like David Bentley Hart's translation, maybe there's I like David Bentley Hart's translation. Actually, I use it sometimes. It's especially when I'm working with the New American Bible, which can be very smooth. David Bentley Hart's New Testament translation's got all the bumps in there, so you can notice where the bumps are.
Yeah. Well, I know that's becoming recently that's become more popular in kind of low church Protestantism. I think it kind of became popular in Seventh-day Adventist groups. I think it's becoming more popular in low church Protestant groups. The idea that hell is not eternal and people are essentially going to be wiped out.
So there's two different positions. There's annihilationism, which is the wicked are just turned into dust and they no longer exist. And then there's universalism, where after some people go through super purgatory, so it means that the Catholics are right about purgatory, basically. Then everybody gets in. So you go through supermax purgatory, and then you get to make it.
Right. Well, that was what Origen taught. That was what Origen of Alexandria taught, and he got kind of poo-pooed by the church for that.
A century later.
Yeah. But that was.
So we got to be honest about that.
Yeah, but he was one of the people. He basically wrote that. At some point God was going to empty out all the sinners from hell, and then they were all going to go to heaven. And then I think there was a council where they anathematized him. They didn't condemn him as a heretic because he wasn't alive at the time that council had happened. So they just anathematized him instead. But I know the problem I have with annihilationism, and I think St. Thomas talks about this a little bit. St. Thomas Aquinas talks about it. One key point that St. Thomas has is that a person's dignity is largely involved in what their natural end is. So, because every person on the stream is a human being with a supernatural end, if somebody were to, senselessly kill one of us, that would be bad because we have a natural end, and thus killing us is against that natural end, and that's kind of against our dignity in that regard. And so the argument against annihilationism is essentially, if a person has a supernatural end, but a person was always predestined to just disappear, that kind of, destroys their dignity, because that means their end, according to God's election, was always to just poof, go away. Whereas if they go to hell, yes, it's unfortunate that they're suffering eternally, but at least they're still partaking in, God's order in some sense. It's just they're participating in it in a very unfortunate way.
Yeah, and there's also kind of piggybacking off of that with the universalism. It does seem to, at least for me, take kind of the stakes out of things, where it's like, hey, everybody gets the door prize, no matter how they lived on this earth. And that was a very common. You'll see that all over the medieval texts. Is that there's
that's why like Origen, he was not a proponent of it, as in it wasn't in his primary teachings to the masses, because people will jump to that conclusion. They might misunderstand it and jump to that conclusion.
With Father Eric's permission, I would like to pull a St. Thomas Aquinas move and quote Rabbi Moses, who says, there are certain things that the Bible bothers to talk about quite explicitly, and other things which are just merely hinted at. And it's kind of better to stick to the things that are very explicitly said, especially in matters like this. Like how many degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit hell is not a huge deal in the prophets, as much as if you do bad things, God is going to punish you. And if you do good things, God is going to reward you. Mm-hmm. And that's a very, very common thing throughout the Bible, without talking in degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I didn't say it quite like that, but is a sort of a thing that we had talked about here.
I'll let you guys.
Like, if I could
let you guys go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry, a lot of people.
Let's go with Castle. You haven't talked in a while.
I was just going to say, if I could just oversimplify it, being is good. You can always make it worse by your own decisions. Sometimes you'll get negative feedback so that you can adjust. And if you don't do that, then things can just stay bad and continue to get worse. And like you can experience that in a participatory way in your own life. And you can just see people get worse and then not decide to get better. And you can just, if you want to just project that out to eternity, like you can do that. And like that's up to your own participation.
You don't have to worry about other people in that scenario. It doesn't, right? It's not a contest between other people. It's a contest between, how much good can you do given your limitations, whatever they may be.
Yeah, I've always, well, maybe not always, but as I've thought about these things, I've come to more greatly appreciate what the Catholic Church represents. And as far as I'm concerned, and hopefully Jacob takes this with good humor, it takes the best of Jewish religion, Roman law, and Greek philosophy, puts it together in a crock pot and cooks it up real slow. And the flavors all balance each other out very nicely. And so, I think of some of the arguments that you'll find in the St. Augustine and some of the later medieval period supports this a little bit better and maybe helps clarify some of the more obscure sayings of our Lord. And that might be the best Catholic answer that you're going to get. Maybe you can go around and find some other Catholics. If I had a book recommendation like right on my fingertips, I'd give it to you, but I'm afraid I don't. So,
well, grace to all of you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yes. It's interesting topic, and God bless you. Yeah. Oh man, time sure flies when you're having fun, right?
Time sure flies when you're talking about theological issues like that.
Maybe it was dragging for Mark. That doesn't seem like it was his.
It's definitely dragging for me, this idea of discussing theology ever. Like, were you in a monastery for 20 plus years studying? Then you're not a theologian. What do you do?
Just like Aristotle, he says nobody should write about metaphysics until they're 50.
There you go. Yeah.
But
I don't think
Thomas
it was
Aquinas
metaphysics.
wrote De Ente Essentia when he was 25. So,
Yeah.
I don't think he said metaphysics, because that seems to be a marketing trick by a book publisher that a bunch of PhDs fell for somehow.
A first century book publisher. It's just
right.
a collection of Aristotle's works from the first century.
Yeah.
Still, it's a marketing ploy by a bookseller that you fell for when you're using the term metaphysics. Good luck.
Well, Aristotle also denied or was skeptical at the very least of the principle of participation. And I think St. Thomas was more on board with that. So I think there were some things he disagreed with Aristotle on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I remember. Have you ever read any sections of A History of Philosophy by Frederick Copleston?
I have not.
That is a fabulous. I mean, I haven't read the whole thing. It's another one of those reference things that you're a little foolish to try and just plow through. But I've got it on my shelf, all 9 volumes, in 3 volume sections. But it's, this is back when, if you had a Jesuit in the university and he was going to write a book, and when he gets to the end of his sections on Plato and Aristotle, I really found this compelling. He looks at them, between the two of them, as having like a complete philosophy, and like, you don't necessarily, like, you can kind of, like, when you want some of the more universal stuff here, you get the forms from Plato, and then when you want to like bring it down to earth, you get some of the hylomorphism, but you kind of put it all together and make it happen. So
in a crock pot?
In a crock pot, yeah. Which is how the Midwest is fed.
Well, I don't know if you've read any of Father Cornelio Fabro.
I've not.
Yeah, he's a 20th century Dominican from Italy, but he like specifically writes about the Thomistic view of participation. Like all the books he writes, he doesn't write about like any other topic except for the Thomistic metaphysics view of participation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like his niche kind of topic.
Yeah, and one of our professors in seminary said that was kind of like the hot area of study in Thomism, was rediscovering Thomas's doctrine of participation. Just in the nick of time, I should say, because people are opting out all over the place, and so more participation is better. I think. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, earlier on you were talking about all of the different types of participation that you experienced in seminary, and how, many people
just kind of the regular repeating ones, right? Like there was a number of different, it was just a survey. It wasn't an exhaustive list.
Yeah. And yet those are all things that people can still, to varying degrees participate in, even with different states in life. And I was even thinking about that with respect to like the silly VeggieTales side thing, where it's like, well, you have all of these different things at all these different layers, and that you can have even things, especially if you got kids or whatever, you've got the little supplement. And as far as VeggieTales goes, that's kind of like the Flipstone vitamin, of participation there. But even still, it's like, hey, there's still something to it. And I see this a lot. Like I'll notice new people that'll kind of show up at my parishes, and there's this one couple that often sits behind me, and you can kind of tell that they're non-Catholic, but they're really trying to get immersed, and you can see that they're really paying attention. And they're participating as much as they can. And a lot of times you wind up seeing this with people who didn't have a particular formation growing up. To your previous point of, sometimes they can actually advance pretty rapidly. And you'll see people just hit the ground running. I mean, my old buddy, like Josh Weinstein, who unfortunately passed away like nine months ago, he was very old. But he was super, super into, he converted when he was much older, but the whole thing of praying the rosary with a large group of men was a major thing that reminded him of his childhood formation that he had, and that was his sort of way of integrating all of that, and then being able to kind of share that with the younger guys, and just kind of seeing like, and I remember at his funeral, the priest was there saying that sometimes converts wind up sort of making like the rest of the Catholics look bad, because they really go and hit it super hard. And I think for sure he was a great example of that. So it's nice to kind of see that you have people who have the great formation and they can remain strong and impart that to others, and then you get the people who you can kind of get like I heard this analogy today doing a little bit of spiritual reading, that when you have dryness or there's sort of like an absence of
consolations,
I mean, you have that, but also even just like for sure in the prayer life, that if you're lacking consolation, you're in that desolation state, but also if in general you just have this complete sort of, maybe you would call it like crisis of faith type thing, and you really allow yourself to just kind of be, I guess, bored, like lean into the desolation and see like, okay, where am I really lacking here? That the analogy was that dry wood is much more likely to be set alight even by a small spark. And like you really see that with some of these guys. So that's just something that I kind of see, I'm not really reading about it so much as just noticing it on the faces of the people that I kind of participate with, even if I don't know their names half the time.
Yeah, that's a great analogy right there. I'm gonna hold on to that. Actually, I'm sure there was some saint who said it, but I'll just quote Castle.
I'm stealing from the very top on this one, but it's do not credit me on this one.
Yeah,
that would be the highest arrogance if I took that.
I've never seen VeggieTales. I'm wondering from a Catholic perspective, how do you like it, Father?
It's for kids. Some of these things that are for kids are a little bit goofy, a little more fun. I watched it, but it was as mentioned earlier, on account of the formation I was given even as a child before seminary. I knew that this wasn't church, and like maybe if they'd like tried to turn church into VeggieTales, I would have enjoyed it as a kid, but I wasn't mad that they weren't doing that. So I think these things can, like Vacation Bible School and some of the little prayers. What's really funny is their treatment of King George and the Ducky, which was a retelling of David and Bathsheba, but with a much happier ending and child appropriate. I remember being bothered that King George, after he had been confronted by the prophet about his sins, didn't go to confession. I knew he was like, like he just prayed to God, you know, and then he felt better. Like, wait a minute, he should be going to confession for that. Like he stole that basically, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a little bit of that Protestantism in there, but it didn't ruin the thing for me.
Yeah, I get that.
I think the thing that I appreciated about it growing up is that it takes, especially if you just watch the ones that are like the particularly violent scenes out of the Old Testament, how they make those child palatable without completely eliminating a lot of they cut out a huge amount of the meaning, of course, but at the same time, it's like, okay, these are the things that you're not going to wind up having your kids, you know, your parents aren't going to read you this. Right, so this is your access to that in the most limited possible way, and you know, at least that way it kind of fills the gaps in a really tiny amount.
Yeah.
You know, I've been at daily mass with the school kids, and we do the David and Goliath story, and it talks about David cutting Goliath's head off, you know, at the very end, and I think the kids just kind of get that that's what war's like, you know, with that. Some of the families I was hanging out with yesterday, one of the moms was commenting that her 2-year-old daughter was like playing dead that morning. Like, look, Mom, I'm dead. And she's like, I think she's really young to have that sensibility. Like she shouldn't be able to understand that yet. And I'm like, well, she's gone and figured it out, you know. And so I think sometimes we do underestimate things, but yeah, I don't think we needed to watch, you know, Jericho get pillaged. Like that'd be a little much for the kids.
No concubine getting split into 12 and sent to each of the tribes.
Was that from the Book of Judges? Yeah. I don't think that story was VeggieTaleized at all. That was right at the very end when it's just about to tee you off for the monarchy there to prevent this sort of thing from happening.
Well, I think if they ever did Adam and Eve, they probably shouldn't have them eating apples because that'd be a little messed up if the vegetables were eating apples.
Cannibalism exists. Gotta introduce it to the children early.
Not cannibalism, since they're all. Well, actually, it would be cannibalism because the one tomato is a fruit, so he'd be eating another fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be that'd be cannibalism. Especially like, what would Mr. Peach think about that?
Yeah.
And then Mr. Peach shows up in the VeggieTales mid-break song "Where's My Hairbrush?" You know, he ends up with the hairbrush because he actually has hair.
Well, I think St. Thomas Aquinas would probably say it was heresy because because vegetables don't have rational souls. He'd probably say it's heresy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be too. You know, they had all sorts of passion plays and that sort of thing back in the day.
Yeah.
He would have just abided, I think.
I was kind of joking because I know a lot of people. He kind of says that in a lot of his work that humans are the only people that are going to be in heaven. So it was kind of a joke because, like the idea, I think the implication in VeggieTales is that the vegetables will eventually go to heaven, but that like St. Thomas would be like, nope.
No
rational souls.
No rational souls. Yeah.
New heaven and new earth.
Yeah. Well, we could have the new earth discussion here. I just like that the Dominicans from the St. Joseph province sell a coffee mug that says "Your dog isn't going to heaven."
Is it not possible for it? Okay.
No dogs go to heaven.
Perhaps in the resurrection we'll have dogs there. I'll have our dogs there in the resurrection, but not heaven.
I have to disagree. We are actually going to be doing this book on my channel soon. The Case for Animal Souls, which I helped translate this from the original Hebrew. And yeah, so in case you want to hear the case for, we will eventually do this on my channel. It is
Catholics
available
versus
on
Jews.
Amazon
Right.
as well.
No, I think as a well-known and well-respected internet theologian, that this discussion about cartoon vegetables and whether or not they have souls is very underrated but super important, and we should definitely bend all our efforts henceforth to.
I think we need to endow a chair at Catholic University of America to study this topic.
Yes.
Well, I think
Exactly.
they have souls. The question is do they have rational souls with a supernatural end?
Well, I'm right there with Aristotle and Aquinas that they don't. I wonder, however, and this is just speculation, and we can speculate here. I'm not preaching from the pulpit. I wonder if animals, on account of their participation in the sanctification of human beings, may be brought into the resurrection. And that's
I have
something I've
to
been
say-
thinking about.
When you read the story of Jonah, right? What happens is Jonah says they have to repent, and the entire city, including the animals, fast and put on sackcloth. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah. Jonah certainly is an interesting book of the Bible. It's a great read, short. Even Mark could read that. You
I
famously
read
don't
Moby
like
Dick. I'm all done. I know all the whale Bible stuff now. It's done. It's finished. We did it.
I suppose you would know all about Jonah on account of Moby Dick, wouldn't you?
Pretty much. I mean, plus I'm an internet theologian, so.
You-
I
How did you
have
become an
a,
internet theologian?
I decided
Just now.
if you can't beat them, join them. So I'm just gonna do it like they do.
Okay, well,
I'm
you
like,
need to go
"Screw it."
review. You need to go review my live stream entitled like the place to do theology or whatever, right? And then like remember that like the only place that you can fittingly do theology is within a larger structure that has like a magisterium and tradition and all these things, and you actually have to be a member of that structure and to participate in it in order to safely do theology. Otherwise, you get weird.
We don't need that. We have a new technology called the internet. And if you self-identify, like I can just self-identify as a woman for like the next hour. Like that's totally legal on the internet now. So all I did was I took my definition. You're not a theologian. You shouldn't discuss theology unless you've been a monk for 20 years studying that, in a monastery. And I said, yeah, we'll just check that one out. And we'll just go with the internet and therefore, because that's what everyone else is doing, right? So, like I said, if you can't beat them, right, with rationality and not being a jerk, then you might as well join them and just go ahead and declare yourself a theologian, and then everything you discuss, like used to happen on BOM all the time, is theological. It doesn't like the weather, theology. Those guys. Anything you discussed over there was theology to them. I was like, what is wrong with you people? I'm just here to say hi to some friends I haven't talked to, but I wasn't really here for whatever kind of quote theological discussion you were into. But yeah.
Man, this sounds like it's a deeply rooted trauma here.
No, it was just more fun to make my definition and then ditch it a few minutes later and start declaring all kinds of interesting statements. It's way more fun. I think that's what it is. Like they're clowns and they're having fun by declaring everything theology. And I was like, yeah, why not have some fun? Screw it. Why fight it?
Christian B. Wagner, though. I do like Christian B. Wagner. He's a good internet theologian.
I'm not familiar with that particular guy.
I don't recognize this idea of internet theologian. I mean, other than declaring myself one, because
neither does the Code of Canon Law. No one is to teach theology in a Catholic university without a mandate.
Is Bishop Barron an internet theologian?
I think he's just a theologian. I think if you become a bishop or a priest, you're just a theologian.
So yeah, the bishops would rank higher than theologians because they can teach with authority.
What about Father Mike? Is it
Father Mike Schmitz?
Yeah.
So as a priest, he participates in the teaching office of his bishop.
Okay.
And so the bishop could, for instance, forbid him to preach if he was going astray. Whereas, bishops usually don't, aren't forbidden to preach unless the Pope really gets ticked off at them.
So are you an internet theologian, Father?
I am just a guy who wants to manifest the Catholic intellectual tradition on YouTube. But whether or not I can speak well of God is,
You are exercising your teaching authority right now, aren't you?
I mean, insofar as I can kick heretics off the stream, yes.
You haven't kicked me off yet.
Well, you're not a heretic.
Yeah, you're not a heretic.
You're outside the wire.
First you have to be a Christian before you can be a heretic.
No,
Right, yeah.
no, but you have to be teaching though, like rather deliberately within the church.
The guy with the moon who was on earlier, I've already forgotten his name. Like, he wasn't teaching; he was just asking questions and saying, "I'm finding these arguments compelling." So it's like, okay, well, let's talk about this, right? Because
that's what happens when you flatten the world, right? You suddenly think that saying or thinking is the same as teaching, and therefore you're a heretic. Like BOM guys used to do that all the time. Well, I mean, Sam Adams or Sam, what's his name? Tiedemann, I don't know what his name is this week. Did that, right? It was like, oh, I'm a heretic. And I'm like, you're in a Universalist Protestant church. Like the idea of heresy isn't even possible in such an environment. But sure, you can be a heretic because you have a bad thought, I guess. Just like you can be an internet theologian. Like you can be whatever you want. I can be a woman right now.
Well, you know what
great.
the trouble with
It's
the internet
internet
is, Mark, is that you pick your own name.
Right. No, it's perfect.
That's the trouble with the internet. You just get to pick your own name.
There is a reason I use my natural name.
Okay.
There's a reason I switched. I won't tell you all the names I've used on various different interconnected systems, internet or not, but yeah.
Yeah.
And to all the people who are watching on my channel, you guys should go to Father Eric's channel. I will put a link in
and boost
chat.
it up. Thank you,
should
Cece.
like
Cece
and
appreciates me
subscribe.
just the way I want to be on the internet.
Because Father Eric is our official Catholic member of the Jordan Peterson sphere.
Love
I'm
that
official
thought.
according to you, Jacob. Just to recall that my bishop has not given me any mission regarding this, and he'd be the one who actually would have the authority to give me such a mission.
If you want, I can ask your bishop if you can be the official Catholic priest on my Discord server. But last time I asked you that, you're like, please don't.
I think he's got weightier matters to deal with. Not that your Discord server is, entirely frivolous, but he's got weightier matters to.
I am perfectly willing to write a letter to His Grace. Is that how you pronounce it?
Excellency.
His Excellency. His Excellency. Who gets called a grace?
I think that's archbishops,
Okay.
and then
I
cardinals
saw
would be
that
your
today.
eminence.
That's weird that came up. I saw a thing on that on like Facebook or something today with the different like levels and what they get called. Excellency, great. So it's weird that it came up.
Well,
That's very funny.
Father Eric is the Reverend, right? And then if you were to make Monsignor, you would be the Very Reverend? Is that
Or if I'd be appointed a dean, or actually, it's very likely that when I take over the office of judicial vicar, which is all but certain at this point, I just need to get that JCL. I'll be very reverend then. There's certain positions in the diocese that get you that very.
What's a judicial vicar?
Just like in the American system, legal power can be divided up to legislative, executive, and judicial. and the judicial vicar is the official judicial delegate of the bishop in those matters. So it's mostly annulment cases that you end up dealing with because we live in a cursed age. But yeah.
So I was actually talking to a Catholic, I'm not going to say who, and this person was telling me that they were reluctant to go to Mass because the Masses they had attended were so silly, might be the right word, that it was almost sacrilegious. And
might very well be sacrilegious, yes, depending on the severity of the offenses.
And this person was telling me that they preferred not to go to Mass as a Catholic than to go to Masses they were worried were being sacrilegious.
Heresy.
Yeah. So it depends on certain circumstances, right? So if you can drive 20 minutes to a more suitable Mass that won't drive you nuts, then you're probably obligated to drive the 20 minutes. That's not an unreasonable expectation once a week on a Sunday morning to do that. I could imagine you'd start getting, so the law doesn't oblige anybody to do the impossible. So if it's a blizzard in Fargo and there's 4 feet of snow on the ground and you don't know how you're getting there, it's like, you don't have to go to Mass that week. You should, out of reverence for God, do something, pray a rosary, read the Bible reading, scripture readings, see if you can get it on TV, something like that. You can also come up with arguments for moral impossibility. Those are a little more tenuous. But certainly I've been at Masses before where I was not happy with the way that things were conducted. And I had serious questions about where they were bearing fruit. And I've done everything in my power as a priest to not inflict that on people. And so far, I think very successful. Yeah, sorry about that. People saw VeggieTales and decided they wanted to make Mass like that, and it didn't go well.
I'm glad we're back on topic, Father. It's very important.
So you're telling me not to bring my cat to Mass?
I probably won't do the cat any good. The cat's probably just fine running around your apartment. Sometimes
you would not give communion to my cat.
I would not give communion to your cat.
No,
that's very clear. If I'd probably ask you not to bring it in the future, unless it's like October 4th and you're doing the blessing of the pets that day. Okay. Some places they do that, and we can sprinkle some holy water on your pets and bless them.
I mean, her name is Shadow of Death. Can you actually bless Shadow of Death?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
It's Shadow of Death is in the Bible. Like,
well, that was my joke. See, this is the Valley of the Shadow of Death, and this is the Shadow of Death. Get it? That's her valley.
There you go.
I got it. Can I return it now?
Fear no evil, Mark. Fear no evil.
I got a black cat just so I could name her Shadow.
Whatever brings you joy, Jacob. But yeah, it would be heroic for your friend to suffer through those Masses and offer up her suffering.
But you would say it's more important to actually go to Mass, even at that risk of people being silly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 1,500-year-old obligation at this point. The Sunday Mass attendance, Sunday Mass obligation. it's been around for a while. It's a grave obligation. It's how we, in justice, render to God what He's owed. So He is owed worship at the very least. That's that'd be my answer. But I would want to know a little bit more about the particulars of the situation, which you are well within your rights to not reveal on the internet.
Well, I mean, I could. It was just somebody I was talking to who is a Catholic and was mentioning there is a traditional Latin Mass available, which they sometimes go to, but just the normal weekly masses, which apparently their local bishop was not happy about the traditional Latin masses.
Okay.
And this person, I was only speaking to them briefly.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't stand the clown masses as much as the next guy, but at the same time, if let's say you lived in a neighborhood where the only church like that you could possibly get to was a church where they were doing a clown mass, and the church still had the valid form of consecration. Again, St. Augustine, addresses this. That person is still acting in persona Christi, which means that if you receive the Eucharist from a priest, even if the priest was in clown makeup, you're still validly receiving the body of Christ, and you're still partaking in the propitiation of the Mass or the Divine Liturgy. Again, I don't think it's ideal. I don't think it's ideal to go to an irreverent Mass at all. But again, I think, I says I'm not going to go to Mass at all because the only Mass near me is an irreverent Mass. I think that's kind of utilitarian reasoning in a sense. I think like what Father Seitz said is absolutely true. It follows the order of justice that man give God, a certain degree of worship, which comes through the participation and the propitiation of the Mass. And it's also, per the office of justice, that he be given a certain amount of time per week. And if you're going to say, I'm not going to go to any Mass because the only Mass near me isn't ideal, then I think you're getting into a situation where you're essentially violating the eternal law to, kind of stand on sort of, principles that may, not be.
There's a simpler solution to all of this.
Yeah.
We're just going to do the red and say the black.
Right.
There you go.
Do the red. So, Jacob, when you read a Catholic liturgical book, the instructions of what to do are in red, and the words of what to say are in black. So you just do the red, you say the black, and don't make stuff up, and don't make a bunch of jokes, and we'll be fine. Like, I don't know how people have managed to overcomplicate this so badly.
They're good at it.
Oh, I've
been spotted.
Yes, we've been spotted. This is a fun canonical question here. Ordinarily, no. Catholics are obliged to accept sacraments from Catholic ministers only. In certain exceptional circumstances, like let's imagine you're in the steppe of Siberia and there are no Catholic churches within 100 miles, you could, in that case, probably fulfill your Sunday Mass obligation at the local Orthodox church. And if I had to guess, the Orthodox priests there would probably, let a fellow Christian stay there, but you probably wouldn't be getting communion from them.
Right.
Even though on our end we wouldn't forbid that, as long as all danger of indifferentism is removed. So
I'm actually wondering if Father Stephen would give a Catholic who made such an objection and came to his church communion.
I wouldn't. I think their bishops would say no, don't do that. Whereas
why would you go? It's 2 hours of standing up, listening to someone say Theotokos a million times, and occasionally somebody says wisdom, and then there's smelly stuff everywhere.
Well,
I don't know.
Catholic,
Not
so
that appealing.
I'm Byzantine Catholic, so I basically do that within the confines of Rome, anyways. But I mean, I think when it comes to the Eastern Orthodox Church, I mean, the thing you also have to understand when it comes to receiving, say, the Eucharist from the Eastern Orthodox Church is what the sacrament is supposed to signify, and part of what the sacrament is supposed to signify is the unity of believers in the church. But again, if a person, and it's supposed to mean that within the Orthodox Church as well, but it's supposed to kind of signify the unity of believers within the Eastern Orthodox Church. So again, if you don't believe in Eastern Orthodox teachings, why would you partake in a consecration of the sacrament that's meant to signify the unity of believers in a church that you have no theological interest in? I would think that would create some internal problems.
Why
all
is
right,
it
there's
about
some canon law
theological?
I'm posting in the chat here. Hopefully it all comes in the but Canon 844 has all of the stuff here. So Canon 844 paragraph 1 says you're only supposed to approach Catholic ministers, and that's pretty clear. 844.2 says that whatever necessity requires or genuine spiritual advantage commends it, and provided the danger of error or indifference has been avoided, Christ's faithful, for whom it is physically or morally impossible to approach a Catholic minister, may lawfully receive the sacraments of penance, the Eucharist, and anointing of the sick from non-Catholic ministers in whose churches these sacraments are valid. So there would need to be a case of physical or moral impossibility in order for that to be allowed. So that's the official canon law that is our guidance here.
I'd like to maybe comment and sort of piggyback on what Ethan Thomas was mentioning earlier, that, for one thing, like, I've actually never seen a clown mass or any of these things. A lot of times I hear people referring to things that they don't like, and there are things that are irreverent. There are certain things that are not ideal, these sorts of things. But if you are, taking something where it's like, oh, I saw someone holding a guitar, or, like, these are things that are, these are not good things, but also it's like, well, or, oh, there was like, female extraordinary ministers or something like that. And therefore I'm not going to fulfill my Sunday obligation. I'm going to go do something else. That to kind of realize the sort of pride that goes into, like, God is infinitely condescending himself to you in that context. And you can't even take your place, which is not really a condescension at all, because you're participating in that act of consecration, so that's actually, like, above your state. And then, deciding, like, oh, I'm not going to do that, that, like, you are the clown in that context,
So I remember asking Father Stephen about the possibility of reunion between the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholics, and he said he thought the biggest obstacle was what he called the liturgical abuses, and I asked him for an example, and he was particularly bothered by little girls passing out communion.
Yeah, we've only introduced extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion recently. which, if you know anything about history, the younger it is, the quicker these things could perish. So we'll have to see. I've always dreamed that if they wanted to make a serious ecumenical contribution, a great way for the Easterns to help remind us Westerns about our own relationship to our tradition would be for some, metropolitan archbishop or even a patriarch, if we could manage, at some ecumenical gathering, standing up and with firm authority, no, he's absolutely correct, saying there won't be union between our churches until you guys figure out your relationship to your own tradition, because all of these innovations are a major obstacle. And until those are dealt with in a satisfactory way, then nothing's going to happen, because our understanding of church is that we keep the tradition of the apostles. And, and I think that would actually, like, here's an imagination about church history, right? Let's just imagine if we can understand this. And it's coming from the Catholic point of view. So like just get ready for the Catholic point of view here, is that we've got these daggone schisms, right? We've got these daggone schisms. Now, why would God allow a schism to happen? It's not a good thing to have the body of Christ torn to pieces. Like, nobody would want to see that. That's obviously not a good thing. And we come back to end of the book of Genesis. You meant it for evil, but I meant it for good. And he's got his own purpose to everything that he allows to happen in this valley of tears. And so what if it wasn't just for this moment that the Orthodox were allowed to split off for a while? And, they would fastidiously keep the tradition of the apostles, which is a good thing. And just when Rome was beginning to teeter, when the bark of Peter is beginning to lilt seriously to one side, they can come in and pull a little bit of counterweight here. We can get orthodoxy and orthopraxy, and getting those things balanced out together again. So, maybe that's one way to understand these things. I don't know, though. I'm not even a theologian on the internet. I'm just the director of liturgy and the guy who carries the bishop's bags and the canon law student. So,
as director of liturgy, do you allow little girls to distribute communion?
Our policy in the Diocese of Fargo is that extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion should be at least 16 years old.
I would say, I think the biggest thing that's kind of standing between the reunion,
he must have had an internet problem that disrupted his communion with us here on the stream. But that was perfect timing.
Yeah.
Last question, Father. If I were to invite you over to my house Friday night dinner and I made Kiddush, would you have any of the Kiddush?
What's Kiddush?
Kiddush is the Jewish ritual that became the Eucharist.
Have. Oh, golly, that's a...
So we bless wine and bread and distribute it to all the people who are participating in the meal.
Yeah, well, that's not... Oh, man. I probably would, and then I'd ask somebody if I did wrong later. One of those ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Well, Yosef invited you for a Friday night dinner.
And then they had a COVID outbreak. But I didn't know what I was getting into. Honestly, it'd be a bigger problem if you were feeding me meat.
Really? Oh, on a Friday night?
On a Friday, yeah.
Yeah, Friday night dinner definitely always has meat. Although Yosef sometimes does vegetarian kiddush because he's modern that way.
Oh, how modern! Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing standing in the way of reunification between the East and the West is probably just the Filioque. Because again, at least from my perspective, the concept that the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son makes perfect sense. But that is something that the Eastern Orthodox Church views as like a vicious and horrible heresy. And that's hard to imagine them kind of folding in on. And again, the Catholic
I mean,
Church,
okay, come on, man. Like the church you go to, you don't recite the Filioque when you chant the creed, do you?
we don't recite it, but we still teach that the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. It's preserved in the creed as just from the Father for liturgical reasons, for ancient liturgical reasons, but from a theological standpoint,
Yeah. I bet you if the adults in the room wanted to settle the Filioque, we could have it settled in about a year. 3 months if we were in a hurry. What
Wasn't it
really
settled?
worries me
And
is
then they backed off.
the drifting on practice with divorce and remarriage. That one I think is a much, and like nobody talks about that one because it's not a nerdy theological topic that you can read about in books, but and I'm not fully briefed on the various Orthodox churches and how they handle it. But I've heard stories of at least certain patriarchs allowing second and even third marriages without a declaration of nullity, which would be the way that we would handle it. And declarations of nullity are not given as favors; they are investigation of facts. So if you can't find enough evidence, marriage enjoys a favor of the law. So that's, if I had to worry about something, that'd be the thing that I worry about.
Well, also in the Russian Orthodox Church, in some sects of the Russian Orthodox Church, they teach rebaptism if a person receives a Trinitarian baptism outside of the Russian Orthodox Church. Now, not all Eastern Orthodox teach that, but specifically many sects of the Russian Orthodox Church. If you became Russian Orthodox tomorrow and you had already been baptized according to what, at least we would consider to be a valid baptism, they would make you get rebaptized all over again. Which, obviously in the Catholic Church, there's a belief that if a baptism is done according to the right form in other Christian sects, that a person isn't to be rebaptized. Like if you were baptized in a Baptist church and they said, I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, chances are, most likely you wouldn't have to be rebaptized if you then converted to Catholicism. But in the Russian Orthodox Church, in some sects, they would say, yeah, you got to get rebaptized. And that's something where I think that would be very, very, very difficult to reconcile that position because
Minor.
with things like, married priests, yes, in some Byzantine churches, they allow deacons who are already married to elevate to the priesthood. They don't do that in the Latin Rite. But again, when it comes to something like being, rebaptized, that's something that is a very touchy theological issue, at least with the Russian Orthodox Church, that I think it might be an issue with. Now, again, I know not all Eastern Orthodox Christians believe that. Most of them don't. But that's still a big sect of Eastern Orthodoxy that if there was going to be a serious reunification talk, you'd have to get beyond that.
That's so minor. I can't imagine that holding anyone up. I mean, the churches now don't have it's still up to the to what the parish priest wants. It's not really a
Yeah, I mean, we've got categories for evaluating these things, and we can just apply the categories. And in cases of doubt, we can do a conditional baptism. If you're not already baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So Yeah, I don't know. There's a number of things that a potential future reunion, optimistically, sometime in the next 200 to 400 years, would have to address. You know what? It's not my number one concern. I deal with a lot more Lutherans than I do Orthodox because of all the Norwegians that settled up here on the plains. Yeah. I'm in danger of getting into an argument with Father Stephen in the comments section here. That's
Boring.
not the most efficient way to do it, and we are running perilously short on time here.
True.
I have to.
You should do a video with you, and you can discuss it out properly, like proper internet theologians.
I'm not a theologian, Mark. I don't have a mandate from the bishop.
I use the power of the internet to theologianize you. It's a new word I made up. It's great. So done. It's fixed.
So I mean, if Father Eric and Father Stephen want to have a discussion, I am perfectly willing to mediate it on my channel. That would be an interesting discussion for the two of you to have.
Well, the only reason he knows about me is via you, so it seems fitting enough. And he has my email if he wants to arrange something. So yeah, I'd be fine. He's a fun guy. I'd appreciate it. But I think that we have done well tonight, and I think that it is in fact dark outside. That I have to go to work tomorrow, and that rational creatures should go to bed under such circumstances. And so I appreciate everybody's participation, even Mark, and I hope you all have a blessed evening and a blessed week. And do the red, say the black, go to mass, go to confession, pray the rosary, don't skip leg day. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.